The soft hum of midday conversation filled Le Mistral, a French bistro nestled between glass towers in Manhattan. Inside, the clink of cutlery and the scent of garlic butter and wine floated through the air. The staff moved with quiet precision, dressed in crisp white shirts and black vests, creating an ambiance that whispered wealth without screaming it. Then the doors flew open like a gust of wind, and the entire mood shifted. Charles Whitmore III entered as though the room owed him something. Tall, silver-haired, with a $7,000 suit and designer sunglasses that he didn't bother removing, he exuded the entitled confidence of someone who hadn't heard no in decades. His personal assistant scrambled behind him, juggling a tablet, a phone, and a notepad. Without waiting to be seated, Charles pointed to the center table. That one, he barked to the Mater D, who immediately nodded and gestured for Alina to prepare the setting. Charles sat, unbothered by the eyes on him. As if the attention was his birthright. The assistant leaned over and whispered something about a board meeting at 1:30. Charles waved him off. This won't take long. Just need to be reminded what real cuisine tastes like. Alina approached, calm and professional, holding the menu and offering the warm smile she gave every guest. She had dealt with celebrities, CEOs, and diplomats. This wasn't new. Welcome to Le Mistral. May I get... You started with some water or perhaps a wine recommendation? Charles barely looked at her. Instead, he glanced at the menu and scoffed. This is all in French? He asked loudly, eyebrows raised like it was a joke. Yes, sir. Alina replied evenly. He laughed short, clipped and mocking. Great. She can't even read the menu, he said, gesturing toward her with a half laugh as if she weren't standing right there. Alina's spine straightened, but her smile didn't falter. Around them, conversation softened. One man at the next table paused mid-bite. The pianist hesitated over a note. Charles didn't notice. He was too busy basking in his own amusement. He had no idea the room was about to belong to someone else. Alina stood still for a moment, not frozen, but calculating. Her smile remained intact, but behind her eyes something shifted, not anger, not humiliation, but a controlled awareness that only someone used to being underestimated could master. She gently tilted her head and said, "Would you like a recommendation, sir?" Her tone was neutral, respectful, but carried an undercurrent of quiet confidence. Charles leaned back in his chair, amused. Unless you've lived in France. I doubt you know the difference between coq au vin and cassoulet, he said with a smirk, not even bothering to hide the superiority in his voice. He glanced over at his assistant, chuckling like he'd delivered a clever punchline. The insult hung in the air, sharp and deliberate. Then, without hesitation, Alina replied, Monsieur préfère-t-il la cassoulet de Toulouse ou celui de Carcassonne? Her accent was clean, effortless, the kind that couldn't be faked. Her voice carried just enough for the nearby tables to catch the sudden shift in language, and they instinctively turned toward her. Charles blinked, momentarily stunned. As if her words had come out of nowhere. What did you say? He asked, eyes narrowing. I was just asking if you preferred the cassoulet from Toulouse or Carcassonne, she said, again in French, softer this time, like she was gently guiding a lost tourist. There's a difference. The Toulouse version is more rustic, heartier with duck confit. The Carcassonne style is finer with partridge-encrusted breadcrumbs. Charles looked around, confused, unsure of what to say. The assistant had gone rigid, staring at his tablet like it held the secret to escaping awkwardness. At a corner table, a young couple exchanged grins, both clearly impressed. A man in a tailored suit near the bar gave a low whistle. Alina continued, transitioning effortlessly into the day's specials, describing each dish with eloquent French, the origins of the ingredients, how the sauces were reduced, what regions the wine pairings came from. Her voice was melodic but unpretentious, like she wasn't trying to prove anything, just stating facts. She happened to know better than anyone else in the room. Charles had nothing to say. His smirk faded. His usual sharp retorts evaporated. I'll have what you recommend, he said at last, his voice much lower. Alina nodded politely. Tires bien. I'll bring you the Toulouse cassoulet. It matches your energy. Rich, heavy, and bold. The line was subtle, but enough to earn stifled laughs around the room. Someone clapped once lightly. Another patron whispered, "That was incredible." Charles didn't respond. He adjusted his napkin, glanced around, and suddenly realized the spotlight had turned, and he wasn't the one shining. Alina returned minutes later with the cassoulet, steam rising gently from the bowl, the scent of slow-cooked duck, white, beans and garlic instantly cutting through the awkward silence that still lingered at the table. She set the dish down with the same grace she had when she first greeted him, no trace of bitterness. No need to linger on what had already passed. Charles looked up at her, this time more slowly, as if seeing her for the first time. The arrogance in his eyes had softened, replaced with something less familiar to him, curiosity. Maybe even a hint of shame. You really studied in France? He asked, his voice quieter now, lacking the booming edge it carried earlier. Yes, she replied gently. Sorbonne University. I specialized in French language and culinary arts. Spent 5 years in Paris. She didn't say it like she was showing off. She said it like it was just part of who she was, no louder than her breath, but no smaller than her worth. Charles tapped his fork against the edge of the bowl and glanced down, clearly searching for something to say that wouldn't make him feel smaller than he already did. Why wait tables here then? Alina met his gaze, her tone unwavering. Because I'm building something bigger. I consult restaurants on cultural training and guest experience. This is just a step along the way, she added with a faint smile. I believe how you treat people tells me more than what's on your resume. He nodded slowly, as if that single sentence had landed harder than any insult he'd ever heard in his life. For a man used to out-talking boardrooms and buying silence with his wealth, this kind of poised truth left no room to hide. His assistant was still hunched over the tablet, now pretending to scroll, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to look up. Charles didn't touch his phone again. He ate the cassoulet in silence. It was undeniably one of the best meals he'd ever had. Each bite carried weight, not just of flavor but of humility. He kept glancing at Alina as she moved from table to table, effortlessly fluent in both language and dignity. When he finished, he placed his napkin over the empty plate and stood, pulling out his checkbook. He scribbled quickly, folded the check in half, and slipped it under the corner of the bread plate. He didn't announce it. No speech. No fanfare. Alina cleared the table moments later and noticed the note. She opened it carefully. It wasn't a tip, it was an offer. Come consult for my hotel group, it read. Name your price. She read it once, then again before folding it and tucking it into her apron pocket. There was no smile, no dramatic reaction, just a quiet nod to herself. Not because she needed validation, but because she knew what she was worth, and today, so did everyone else in that room. Charles exited without another word. The door closed behind him, and this time, no one watched him go. All eyes had shifted to Alina, the woman who had walked through mockery without ever raising her voice and left the room knowing she'd said everything she needed to say.